Hello everybody, welcome back to FUN-dations for college students. It's Michaela, and today I have a special guest here with me, Levi. How's it going, Levi?
Hey Michaela, how's it going?
Good. You ready to talk about ELL today?
Sure am.
Alright. So a lesson we did this semester was about English language learners, and you said that you did a project on ELL last year, was it?
Yeah, it was actually earlier this semester.
Earlier this semester?
Foundations too.
So what were some things that you incorporated into that project?
Yeah, one of the biggest things we talked about was just how it is difficult for English language learner to be learning the language at the same time they're trying to comprehend other topics, such as math or science. So not only are they sifting through, the basics of the English language, trying to comprehend that, but they're trying to interpret these clues in the language. Sometimes it's slang even while they're trying to learn a topic, and it can be tricky.
Yeah, it definitely can be. And as a teacher, it's very common actually to have students who don't have English as their first language, and it can be definitely hard to communicate. Taken a few Spanish classes, haven't in about 5 years. But would you take a Spanish class or brush up on Spanish skills in order to be able to communicate with them in the classroom?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think back home especially, there's a pretty large Spanish-speaking community.
Yeah.
We took, for most of us, if we wanted to get in advanced regents, it was I think 4 years total with middle school and high school combined of Spanish we ended up taking. So I got that under my belt, but honestly, I'd probably need to brush up on it a little bit, maybe do some Duolingo.
Yeah, I did Duolingo
Yes.
before the pandemic hit, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Be a Duolingo owl. We'll get after you though.
And so 1 in 5 students are actually immigrants that you will have in your classroom, and 2 to 3.3 million of these English language learners are in America. 75% speak Spanish.
Okay.
And going to school is very, very challenging for them, so they're usually placed below grade level in classrooms, and their dropout rates are higher because of the language barrier. Now, when you were in elementary school, did you ever know anybody, or were you friends with anybody who was an English language learner? And did you see that they were quiet, on the quiet side, especially in elementary school?
Yeah, I had a buddy. Name starts with D. I'll just say D. And he was a Spanish-speaking student, and English was his second language. And I remember he got much better as it went on. He was almost slightly just irritable, because you could tell he was having a tough time with classes and everything, but understandably so. Never aggressive or anything like that. Just he was having a tough time, because you could tell it was just so much more for him to do the basics and whatever, especially English class. But yeah,
I have a friend who was from the Philippines.
Nice.
They taught English in the Philippines, but when he got to America, he was 14 or 15, and he even still to this day will say things, and it's not very correct English. So I guess it's still hard for him, and he's been speaking English for a really long time. So I think it just shows how long it takes for people to be able to be really proficient in a new language.
Yes, English is a very slang heavy language too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of difficult to textbook learn English. You kind of have to immerse yourself.
Yeah. And you have to keep up with the changing terms that the kids say.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm having a hard time with that myself.
Yeah, me too. And I give a lot of credit to people who learn English.
Yes.
It's really hard to learn it. I think it's up there with Mandarin. I think that and Mandarin are some of the hardest languages to learn.
And depending on which language you're coming from.
Yeah. And there's a lot of myths about people who are English language learners, that they can learn another language quickly, or that they've mastered it when they can speak it fluently, or that everyone learns the same way, which isn't true. Because especially when it comes to music too, the same goes for that, because not every student you're gonna have will learn the same way, and it takes a very long time. Like I said about my friend, he's been speaking English for a long time, and he still isn't very fluent in it, but he keeps up with the slang. So
that's good.
Now there's a lot of stages to learning. So the silent stage is the first stage that the kids are in. So if you're in an elementary school classroom, they won't really talk a lot, and they'll imitate what their classmates do, and it takes this frame lasts from 0 to 6 months. Then 6 months to a year is referred to as early production,
Mm-hmm.
and it's when the child begins to learn phrases that they find important in the classroom. So that's like yes, no, or where the bathroom is. So like the bathroom is what that's called.
Reminds me of Spanish class, like "Puedo ir al baño." Was
Yeah.
like one of the only phrases people knew at first.
That was how you were only allowed to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
So you weren't allowed to ask, "Can I go to the bathroom?" Because they'd be like, "No."
Yeah.
And then there's speech emergence, which happens between 1 to 3 years, and the child can speak English but may like leave out things such as like the past tense or plurals, or they
Mm-hmm.
might have words like that are in the appropriate context but not like in the appropriate form.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and then there's intermediate fluency, which happens 3 to 5 years, where they have a very good comprehension. But 5 years is a very long time to like get to that level.
It is. Yeah.
So like as you're learning, I feel like like you said about your friend, that it's very stressful
Mm-hmm.
when you are around people. Like if you went to like a different country, like you went to like Russia,
Yep.
and like you didn't know how to speak English, like I feel like it would be very stressful to try to. I mean, you didn't speak Russian.
Right.
I feel like it would be harder to communicate with people, and it would be stressful. And like if you went to school there, it would be stressful too, because you just wouldn't understand. And that goes for anybody learning any language,
Mm-hmm.
not just people learning English. And then in 5 to 7 years, they reach advanced fluency, which is where they can speak the language well and understand it very well. And that's a while.
That is why, and you think like, as a kid, even, say they move, to the United States, like when they're in 5th grade or something like that.
Yeah.
And then 5 to 7 years, they could be at the end of their high school career, so it's difficult. Definitely, have to do your best as a teacher to accommodate that.
Yeah.
And, just be kind, maybe have, like hopefully they got a buddy or something, or you could maybe nudge some students in the direction and be like, hey, could you kind of try to help them if they're trying to ask for something?
Yeah. Definitely. So, when you have a classroom of your own, how will you try to help out an English language learner in your classroom?
Yeah, I think kind of like in the similar style to having to do diversification of instruction with, regular students who English is their first language,
Yeah.
who might have different learning styles, I'm going to show visual, all these things. I think one of the biggest things is modeling for the students,
Yes.
especially with a band or any kind of musical setting, is just kind of showing them first
Yeah.
and then explaining. And I think it's important not to do things like talking overly slow or overly loud. They don't have a hearing issue,
Yeah.
they're just learning English. So it's be respectful as far as not implying that they're not smart, but just use simpler vocabulary, excuse me. It looks like, I need to use simpler vocabulary myself.
I definitely agree with you. Because a lot of people are like, treat them like it's a disability, and it's not a disability. Like I said with the example from like going to Russia, like you don't have a disability just because you're in Russia and you don't know the language, like because you speak English. So I hate that people think that, and there's some people that talk down to people, or like they act differently towards the students because they don't know how to speak English, and I feel like that also will increase them wanting to drop out.
Oh, for sure. Lowers your confidence level and stuff.
Yeah.
You think, maybe I'm already having a hard time with English, having a hard time with class.
Yeah.
Then these people perceive me as less intelligent because I'm not able to communicate in my language. Or maybe even with racism and stuff.
Yeah.
There's certain people will see somebody speaking non-English, whatever that is, Spanish, German, whatever, as less intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think that as a teacher teaching someone who is an ELL, I feel like visuals is probably something very important. Facial expressions too. Show lots of pictures, because the great thing about music is that it's a universal language. So a half note is a half note here, Latin America, Canada, even though they speak English and French there, but a half note is a half note anywhere, and notes on the instrument are all same notes on the instrument.
Yeah.
So it's it's probably I'm not saying it's easy, but they can understand it without feeling bad about themselves, because you can use a lot of different things to teach them.
Yep.
And if I was doing a written test in the classroom, I really wanted to brush up on my Spanish so that way I would know more words. I would probably give them a test like written in like Spanish for them, so that way they don't feel like they're falling behind compared to everyone else. Because if they can read the test, I feel like it would help them gain confidence and.
Exactly, you're just giving them some kind of extra time.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I've got a family member who's dyslexic, for example, and the teacher he had, he always really appreciated. He would never say, oh, come, like, to the separate classroom for your test. He'd just, kind of a little bit before the test, not exactly the, hey, so-and-so, come with me for a second, I need your help or something like that. My brother is a teacher. He has some students who are from Afghanistan. They speak, I think it's either Pashto or Farsi. I think they speak Farsi. But I think that they're given like a lot of extra time if they need to like translate or do that on things, like supervised test taking.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that we have like translators in our pockets now. Like we go on your phone, help them translate to like if you don't know, because
Professor
there's a lot
Google,
of yeah, Professor Google. So like I just think it's awesome that we have the accessibility to help out people who don't know our language or who don't know English. So there are actually 2 acronyms that we learned. This is the last thing I just want to cover.
For sure.
Is basic interpersonal connection skills, communication skills, known as BICS, which are skills that the English language learner can use like in everyday events, like talking on the phone, like taking like taxi or an Uber or something like that. Just anything like they do like every day. And then there's another one called CALP, and it stands for Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. And it's just like the language that they learn to use like at school for like their academics. And so BICS takes for 6 months to a year to learn, but CALP can take up to 5 years for them to learn. And that's still like a lot of time, and it's just...
Right, because there's going to be like in an academic setting, there's going to be a lot of language that's, that you got your survival level stuff, asking directions, asking for food, help, things like that. But there's language we use in school, like high school especially, even, the end of middle school, that maybe adults want to be familiar with, like mathematical terms or like scientific terms, things like that, certain English stuff. So it's crazy to expect someone who is in the process of learning the basics of English to be learning these advanced words that wouldn't come up anywhere but the classroom.
Yeah, because when you're in a Spanish class, they don't throw like the past tense verbs at you like on the first day of class.
Exactly. They're not talking about like nuclear fusion or like momentum or things like that.
Yeah. Imagine.
Yes.
That would be so overwhelming.
It would be a lot.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here today, Levi. That's
me.
going to conclude our podcast on ELL. I'll see you all next week for Chapter 3.